As preppers, our job is to be stockpiled and ready to go. There's lots of information out there, and of course we want to be able to check it with the information we have to be ready. Let's go through an article. There's lots of things we can glean from this so we can be better prepared. This is from a website called Simple Family Preparedness, 20 essential survival supplies you need for a societal collapse. Aside from weapons, that is. Number 1, water purification equipment. And that's good. Not simply just having water stockpiled, a gallon per person per day. Much more than that, mind you. You need to have water purification. Those water tablets, by the way, may not be your best bet. If you have any type of chemical agents in the water, etc., those tablets will do nothing for that. The tablets are only good for biological organisms, killing things that will actually make you sick. So having an activated charcoal filter like a Katadyne, which I show all the time, is something you want to invest in to make sure you have. Turning the murkiest mud puddles into nice, clean water, because of course, water is incredibly essential to life. Number 2, I like the way they word this, a solid first aid kit. Not a first aid kit, a solid one. Because having little Snoopy Band-Aids is not going to cut it when crap hits the fan. You need to have solid trauma stuff in there. You need to have it so you can have Israeli bandages and the correct type of tourniquet. And there's so many things. I've talked about this before. By the way, if you look in the bottom, you can actually go to our webpage and actually purchase checklist of some of those medical things you might want to buy. I've done videos about these in the past, and I'm going to be doing more first aid videos in the future. But make sure you have a lot of this stuff to be able to, help out you and your family. Number 3, obviously, storable food supplies, canned veggies, protein-packed dried beans, energy bars, anything that's going to last a long, long, long time and is going to be something you can stockpile, canned food, rice, beans, instant potatoes. There's so many things we could put on there, but just make sure it's not going to spoil, because there's nothing worse than having all your hard-earned money going into your stockpile go to waste. Number 4, a reliable shelter. And it's very interesting, they go right into a sturdy tent capable of keeping you dry and warm, or maybe the materials or know-how on making your own makeshift shelter. But they don't even talk about your most important reliable shelter, your house. I say this all the time, and please listen to me. Please listen. Do not bug out unless your life depends on it. It might, by the way, and having a bug out bag for that reason, your house may catch on fire, and of course you have no place to go. So have a tent, sure. But really focus on your house as being your permanent shelter, because it's already there, it's well established, it's your neighborhood, you already know, etc., etc. So have your reliable shelter. Your house is your number 1 reliable shelter. Versatile tools? Sure, why not? Pocket knife, multi-tool, etc. And there they go again. They talk about having these tools, which is great for a bug out bag or get home bag. And I'm not saying don't keep a knife or a multi-tool with you all the time. I do. But your house is going to have, hopefully, a larger arsenal and tools than simply just a multi-tool. Your house is your location, it's your castle, and having socket sets, all kinds of different types of wrenches, tools, screwdrivers, etc. Have a whole bunch of things to be able to do repairs or maintenance or whatever you need to when crap hits the fan. Light sources, headlamps, flashlights, that's pretty straightforward. And there's so many to choose from. I always talk about having, battery-operated ones are good, but have rechargeable ones, crank ones, squeeze lights, so that way you don't have to be fishing around for batteries for long term. And if you have some type of solar generator to keep this guy recharged, well, then you never have to be fishing for batteries ever again. Navigation aids, yes, very smart. And again, in case you need to leave your home, but you don't have to go out and buy expensive maps. I like maps and a compass. I'll link a compass below, the one I actually recommend. It's not very expensive. They're easy to use. But understand that your maps, you can get a really sophisticated topographical map, which is great. But your local visitor bureau is going to have maps for free. Go pick up a few, put them in all your bags, so that way you have all these things so you know where to go. But in addition, you need to know where you're going to go. If you do have to evacuate or bug out, especially if you have multiple people going to a same location, you need to predetermine where you're going to go ahead of time, so that way you're not just simply going to be wandering around saying, oh, where do we go now? That's going to be a bad situation for you. Fire starters, yes. And people love using the ferro rods. I'm not a ferro rod kind of guy. I do have them. I have multiple ways to start fires. Obviously matches, waterproof matches, lighters. I like the torch lighters. There's so many things you could use to do this. I recommend you have a multitude of different types of ways, because there's nothing worse than trying to get warm, dry your clothes, or even prepare food, and you can't get a fire started. Strong rope and paracord, always good to have. Stay informed with a radio, and it's good to have a crank radio. I mentioned in a previous video that sometimes cranking it, if that's all you have, and it'll work. But if you have a solar generator to charge your crank radio, you'll be in a much better situation. There we go, a solar charger. And these little tiny guys, they're nice. They have a flashlight. You know, at the very least, you have a rechargeable flashlight. It can keep your phone going. It can charge a couple things, but obviously it's not a very powerful, sophisticated unit. They're inexpensive. I have them in my go bags, etc., everything I need. But having some of these is good. But again, having a solar generator might be more advantageous. Arm yourself with knowledge. Have all kinds of survival manuals, first aid guides, books for entertainment, etc., all kinds of things for knowledge. And here's today's poll for you. Put in the comments below, what are some of the essential survival guides that you can't do without? There's so many of them, and I have lots of them. They're really good to have. The right clothing? Oh, so true. And the right clothing during the summer, obviously, is one thing, but the right clothing in the winter can mean life or death. In fact, I'm going to link at the very end of this video a video to watch as far as what clothing you're going to have for the winter time, because it may be what keeps you alive. A sewing kit, always good to have this so you can mend your own clothes. Pet supplies, do not forget your four-legged friends. At the very least, I would have canned food for your pets because the dry stuff doesn't last indefinitely. The canned food will. It's kind of pricey, but at least you can stockpile stuff for them too. Spare supplies to barter. They mention tools, batteries, seeds, etc. And that is true, obviously. You're going to have spare things to barter with people. But I wouldn't go out and specifically buy necessarily spare things now in hope you can barter with it later. I think you're just going to end up with certain spare things that would work well for bartering. However, one good thing that does work well for bartering, by the way, is vices like liquor. Some people like cigarettes, etc. There's all kinds of things like that. Think about things that people really going to want to need because their emotions get involved, and keep those on hand for obviously trading purposes. And there we are again to number 17, seeds. Sure, have lots and lots of seeds, but only things that you like to eat. Fishing gear. Yeah, that's pretty smart. Hunting gear too. Have multiple ways to be able to attain food. A wind-up or solar-powered watch. You may say no, and you may think it's kind of silly. However, they say it's essential for planning, navigation, or maintaining a routine. At the very least, if you're going to meet people at a certain time, sure, have that. But honestly, I don't know, this may be one thing you might be able to do without. Portable greenhouse materials. Things like clear plastic sheeting, flexible piping, helps protect plants from harsh conditions. Sure, not a bad idea. And there we have 20 things that you'll want to look at possibly stockpiling or being ready for. Put in the comments below what are some other things, because obviously we want to be ready. And using a collective community mindset to understand what to have and what works and what doesn't is essential for survival. And that's what we want to do at Goshen Prepping. All right, anyway, check out this video here where we can talk about winter clothes you're certainly going to want to have.